Hey everyone, and welcome back to Binge Guide. You know, the podcast that helps you find the next show to binge. I'm Andrew June, and with me today is Victoria. We're diving into something a little different this time. A movie with action comedy and a hero you won't believe.
Hey everyone.
So we're talking Novocaine, starring Jack Quaid. And this guy, he literally can't feel pain at all.
I'm excited for this one. It's not every day you see a premise this unique.
Right, like no pain ever. Can you imagine?
It's pretty wild, especially for an action hero. I mean, we're so used to seeing them, overcome injuries and push through the pain, but this is like the opposite.
Exactly, and it makes you wonder, could someone who doesn't feel pain actually be a better fighter?
Yeah.
Without that hesitation or fear? Could they just be more strategic, more calculated?
That's a really good point. I mean, think about it. If most people are in danger, they're going to freeze up or hesitate. But for someone like Nathan Cain, the main character in Novocaine Danger might not even register the same way.
Right.
It could make him completely unpredictable.
And before we get too deep into that, gotta mention Jack Quaid. I mean, this guy's been killing it in The Boys, and he's done some awesome horror stuff too, like Scream and Companion.
Oh, absolutely. He's building a really impressive resume. I'm so curious to see what he does with this role.
Yeah.
Bringing that charisma and intensity he's known for.
Well, in Novocaine, he's playing Nathan Cain. He's a bank executive living a pretty normal life until his bank gets robbed and things get crazy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. His girlfriend, Sherry, who's played by Amber Midthunder.
Oh, wow. Amber Midthunder. She was incredible in Prey.
Oh, yeah. She's fantastic.
I can only imagine what she's going to bring to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sherry gets taken hostage during this whole bank robbery thing. And that's when Nathan's, whole inability to feel pain thing, it kind of becomes his secret weapon. He has to rescue her. And his condition gives him this crazy advantage in all these wild situations.
It's like they took a medical condition and turned it into a superpower. But it also raises some questions, could that lack of pain make him reckless without consequences? Would he just take all these crazy risks without a second thought?
That's what I'm wondering, too. Is he like this strategic mastermind or just some daredevil who doesn't even realize how much danger he's in?
Right. And how will that affect his relationship with Shinurb? I mean, can you really understand someone's fear or pain if you've never experienced it yourself?
I think a whole other layer to the story.
Yeah.
It's not just about the action. It's about exploring what it means to be human, to feel.
I think that's what makes Novocaine different from your typical action movie. It's smart, it's thought-provoking, and it's still going to deliver on the action and the laughs.
Yeah, it's definitely being marketed as an action comedy. And the trailer, I don't know, it gave me this John Wick meets Nobody kind of vibe, like intense action, but with this dry wit.
I totally see that. And the supporting cast, oh my gosh. Nicholson, Jacob Batalon from the Spider-Man movies, Matt Walsh. I mean, come on.
Well, Walshy's always hilarious.
This movie's going to be so good.
So everyone, mark your calendars. Novocaine hits theaters March 14th, 2025.
That's right. And if you're like me and you can't wait that long, they're doing early access screenings on March 8th at select theaters.
Nice.
So you can catch it a whole week early.
But here's where things get even more interesting. Novocaine is opening against Steven Soderbergh's new thriller, Black Bag.
Oh, wow.
It'll be really interesting to see how this action comedy, with super unique premise, stacks up against a more classic thriller.
I think it'll do really well. It's fresh, it's got a great cast, and that premise is just so intriguing. I think people are ready for something original, and Novocaine delivers that. Plus, who doesn't love a good underdog story?
So it's like David versus Goliath at the box office.
Exactly.
But before we get into all the box office predictions, I want to hear from you. What are you most excited about with Novocaine? What questions do you have going into it?
Oh, there's so much to unpack here. Honestly, I'm most curious to see how they handle the emotional side of Nathan's condition. Can someone who doesn't feel physical pain truly understand love or fear or grief?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's one thing to see him shrug off a punch or whatever, but how will he deal with emotional pain? Will it even affect him?
Right. And let's not forget about the directors, Dan Berk and Robert Olsen. I mean, these guys are known for these dark comedies with a thriller edge like Villains and Body.
They're great at writing, and they've got a really cool visual style. I can't wait to see what they do with this project. It feels like a perfect fit.
Absolutely. Their films always have this underlying tension, this feeling that anything could happen, and I think that's going to work so well with Novocaine.
Definitely. But before we get into their past work and what it might tell us about Novocaine, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the next show you should binge.
You know, one of the things that really stood out to me in the trailer was how they showed Nathan's condition visually.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just him shaking off injuries. It was like they gave his lack of pain a physical form.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There were those moments where the action would slow down and you'd see these flashes of light around him, almost like his body was reacting to the impact, but without the pain.
Right. It was like they were showing his resilience, his ability to withstand stuff that would like destroy a normal person.
Totally.
I think that visual style is going to be a big part of what makes this movie so unique.
Yeah, it adds this whole other layer to the action. You're not just watching someone get hit. You're seeing how their body processes it in this totally different way.
It makes you think about how we experience pain, how it's both physical and mental. And for someone like Nathan who doesn't have that physical part, how does that change his whole view of the world?
That's a great question. Does he even understand danger the same way we do? I mean, if you can't feel pain, do you have the same instinct for self-preservation?
Right. It could make him super reckless, but it could also make him incredibly brave. Think about it. You can face anything without that fear holding you back.
That's a powerful idea, and I think that's where the directors, Berk and Olsen, really come in.
Yeah.
I mean, they're known for creating these worlds where reality and fantasy kind of blend together.
Oh, totally. Their films always have this dark, surreal quality to them.
Like in Villains, remember?
Yes.
It had that quirky fairy tale look, but underneath, there was this unsettling feeling like something wasn't quite right.
Exactly. And I think they'll bring that same energy to Novocaine, creating this world that reflects Nathan's unique perspective.
Totally. And they're also not afraid to use humor in these dark situations, like in Body.
Oh, yeah. Body was a perfect example.
It was a thriller, but with these moments of dark comedy that would just catch you off guard.
And that mix of humor and suspense, it's going to be so important in Novocaine. You need that balance to keep the audience hooked and to make sure the whole premise doesn't get too heavy.
Absolutely. You want people to feel like they're right there in the action, experiencing everything alongside the characters.
Speaking of the action, did you see that Novocaine is coming out in 40X D-Box and MX40?
Oh, wow. No, I hadn't heard that.
Can you imagine how crazy those action scenes are going to be with all those extra sensory effects?
Oh, man, the car chases, the explosions, the fights. It'll be like you're right there in the middle of it all.
Talk about immersive storytelling.
It's a really smart move from a marketing standpoint, too. You
Yeah.
create that buzz that you got to see it to believe it hype.
Exactly. It plays into that spectacle that people
Yeah.
love. But at the end of the day, I think what's really going to set Novocaine apart is its heart, beneath all the action and the humor. It's a movie about what it means to be human, to feel, to connect with others.
It all comes back to that central question. Can someone who doesn't feel physical pain truly experience the full range of human emotions? Can they understand empathy, compassion, love, the way someone who's felt loss or heartbreak can?
That's the real mystery at the heart of this movie, and I think the answer is going to be way more complicated than we might expect.
I think you're right, and that complexity is what makes Novocaine so interesting. It's not just some mindless action flick. It's a movie that's going to make us think, feel, and maybe even question our own ideas about pain and its role in our lives.
Now, before we get too philosophical, let's switch gears for a second and talk about the marketing campaign for Novocaine. They've done some really interesting things, especially around Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's not every day you see an action movie embracing a romantic holiday like that.
Exactly. So let's explore how they've used that unique approach to grab people's attention and build excitement for Novocaine. Stick with us. Welcome back to Binge Guide. So before the break, we were talking about how Novocaine has been marketed, especially that Valentine's Day stuff.
Right. It's not your typical approach for an action movie, but I think it's working.
Oh yeah, it's definitely unique. They've taken something unexpected and made it work for them.
Like those Valentine's Day promos they put out on social media.
Oh yeah.
Some of them were funny, some were kind of sweet, but they all tied back into that idea of not feeling pain.
Like that one TikTok video, remember, with the cast wishing everyone a happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
They were all like, this Valentine's Day loves someone who feels as much pain as Nathan Cain, which is none.
I thought that was hilarious.
So clever. It was so unexpected, but it totally worked. It got your attention and made you want to learn more about the movie.
Exactly. And they had those cheesy Valentine's Day poems, too, on their Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, I loved those.
Like roses or red violets or blue. I go after all the bad guys for you.
So cheesy, but they stick with you.
Yeah, it's all about getting people talking. And they're doing a great job of that. They've been really active on social media, sharing behind-the-scenes stuff, interviews, even fan art.
It feels like they're building a community around the movie.
Right.
And that kind of engagement can make a huge difference when it comes to building buzz.
Totally. Plus, the timing of the release is perfect. March is usually a pretty quiet month for big movies, so Novocaine has a good chance of standing out.
Yeah, it's going up against Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag, but like we were saying before, I think Novocaine offers something completely different.
Right, Novocaine is this fresh, original action comedy with this super unique hook. Black Bag is a more traditional thriller. It'll be interesting to see what audiences are in the mood for.
I think a lot of people will be drawn to the originality of Novocaine, and with all the early buzz and the positive reviews, it's looking like a hit.
So from that wild premise to the really clever marketing, Novocaine has done a lot of things right.
Absolutely. It's been so fun diving into all of this with you.
This has been another great deep dive.
For anyone listening who's intrigued by Novocaine, remember it hits theaters March 14th, 2025.
With early access screenings starting March 8th.
Don't miss it.
And that's it for this episode of Binge Guide. Hopefully we've helped you find the next show you'll want to binge.
Until next time.
Happy watching, everyone.